Have you ever wondered why some seasons of your life feel like everything you once held close is suddenly slipping through your fingers? Why it seems every identity you built, every plan you clung to, every safety net you trusted is slowly unraveling, leaving you raw, vulnerable, and honestly, a little lost. You're not alone, and you're certainly not forgotten. In fact, if the road feels rough right now, it could be the beginning of your next chapter, not the end. Sometimes, the roughest roads lead to the richest destinations. Think about how many times you've heard, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." It's cliché, yeah, but sometimes clichés hide a tough truth. Pain can be the beginning of purpose. And maybe, just maybe, the difficulties you're praying to escape are the very tools being used to shape the strongest, most powerful version of who you are meant to be. A lot of us hold tight to the identities handed to us by the world. Maybe you spent years thinking being a good mother, a loving wife, a dedicated professional, or the strong friend was the sum total of your worth. What happens when those roles are shaken? When the relationship ends? When you're overlooked at work? When the phone stops ringing? And you find yourself sitting in silence with nobody expecting anything from you, except, finally, your honest self. Sometimes, life pulls back the curtain and the only spotlight is on you and the questions that haunt you at 2 a.m. But here's the thing, sometimes these moments aren't meant to shame you, but to set you free. From the outside, people see the breakdown. Internally, it's a breaking open. Like an artist scraping away the old paint to reveal an untouched canvas, life is making you ready for who you were all along. Have you ever caught yourself repeating a lie about yourself that came from someone else? Maybe it was a careless word from a parent, a ruthless critique from a friend, or even just the constant hum of the world telling you who you're supposed to be. Suddenly, when all that is stripped away, you're exposed, not as broken, but as real, raw, and wonderfully unfinished. Think about a seed. From the outside, it's hard, unimpressive, even easily dismissed. But only when the outer shell breaks does life emerge. To rebuild something new, sometimes the old has to be broken first. And it's not weakness, it's preparation. It's a sacred renovation. Now, let's get real about self-reliance. So many women are the backbone of everything around them. Always got a backup, a solution, a gentle word, a plan. But what happens when all the old tricks stop working? When ingenuity and hard work don't bring the breakthrough? Standing in that uncertain space feels terrifying. But what if that's exactly where true faith is born? Real trust happens not when everything's in your control, but when it's not. Learning to let go is its own kind of strength, and sometimes that's a lesson you only learn when your grip is forced to loosen. Have you noticed that in the silence after your strategies fail, you're finally quiet enough to listen? Sometimes your plan failing is proof that a bigger plan is unfolding. And listen, when your strength runs out, that's not the moment of weakness. It's the doorway to a power that doesn't depend on you alone. Think about every time you struggled and came out wiser. Those weren't just wounds. They were wake-up calls. But there's another reason for the breaking, and that's to unlock what's hidden. Like oil is pressed out of olives only under extreme pressure, the most remarkable aspects of your spirit often emerge in the toughest seasons of your life. There are stories in you, wisdom in you, compassion in you that you may have never noticed until you had to. Maybe you've quietly survived things nobody knows. You showed up, did your best, pushed through, even when everything in you wanted to give up. You wept behind a closed door, dusted off your tears, and went out to encourage others. What you didn't see was that, in those moments of pressing, something beautiful was being produced. A quiet strength, a gift to be poured out for others. How many ministries, How many businesses, how many movements have been birthed from scars no one else sees? There is no testimony without the test, and in the crushing, your capacity grows. Maybe you're standing in your kitchen right now, exhausted, feeling like there's not a drop left to give, and yet you keep pouring anyway. That's the oil. That's the miracle. That willingness to keep showing up, even on empty, turns pain into power and heartbreak into hope. There's another level to this journey, a place where the noise fades, and you start tuning your life to a different frequency. Through pain, you might learn to hear that still, small voice that cuts through the chaos. At first, it feels alarmingly quiet. Old friends fade, distractions disappear, and suddenly you're left with yourself and your thoughts, and sometimes God. That's the place where the whispers come, nudges you might have missed before, moments of clarity. It's uncomfortable, learning to be guided not by checklists, but by gentle direction. You lean in, you listen more, you start to trust those nudges. Real transformation happens here, in the quiet, in the stillness, right when you thought you'd been abandoned. Sometimes the silence after the storm is just the prelude to hearing your purpose clearly for the first time. Have you ever noticed how many people who make a big impact in the world didn't have an easy ride? They didn't read about adversity. They survived it. The woman comforting grieving mothers was once a grieving mother herself. The mentor helping women rediscover themselves was once lost and invisible, too. There's power in wounds when you share the healing. Every jagged scar tells a story the world needs to hear. And your story, with all its tears and struggles, might just be someone else's survival guide. Here's a truth we don't hear enough. Real ministry, real influence, starts at the breaking point. You can't give away comfort and wisdom you haven't lived through. You don't get compassion out of thin air. It's the result of walking through your own valley. Your pain might look like a prison, but for someone else, it's a key. Your heartbreak is somebody else's hope. So if you're in that season, think of it as a delivery room, not a dungeon. Every pang of pain is a contraction ushering something new into the world through you. And while it may seem like everything is in pieces, that's not the end of the story. You're not going to stay broken forever. The hands that guided you through darkness are the ones that begin reassembling you. Different this time. You start to recognize yourself, not for what you lost, but for what you found. The new strength isn't loud, but it's steady. The new confidence isn't flashy, but it's unshakable. The new wisdom isn't someone else's words, it's your lived experience. Suddenly, the opinions of others lose their grip. The need to be liked becomes less important than the need to live true. Imagine a house wrecked by a storm. It looks like a disaster zone, but the foundation remains. And with patience, love, and persistence, it's rebuilt. Stronger, more purposeful, more beautiful than before, not because it never broke, but because it survived and was transformed. Just like that, your own rebuilding is coming. It won't look like your old life, but it will reflect the person you were always meant to become. That's what makes you unshakable. That's what makes you a force for good. You rise, not because you never fell, but because every time you fell, you learned something new about rising. So, to every woman watching, if you ever sit in your room wondering why there was so much pain, so many goodbyes, so many tears that no one else noticed, know this. It isn't the end, and it certainly isn't for nothing. You are never just being broken. You are being remade. Sometimes, losing what you thought you needed is what makes space for the new, truer life that's waiting for you. Drop a comment below. I'm being rebuilt in power. Let's make it a declaration, a reminder that your story is far from over, and every piece of your journey matters. If this spoke to your soul, hit like, share it with a friend who needs the reminder, and subscribe to be part of a community that's growing stronger together. Remember, every woman God uses, He has lovingly allowed to be reshaped, not because she was weak, but because she was chosen to carry something nobody else could. Stay blessed and never forget, your purpose is bigger than your pain.